You're taken blindfolded to a strange apartment and locked inside. You have no contact with the outside world and none of your belongings. You're trapped in an empty room with no food or water. They've even stripped you of your clothing. The only way out is to raise $7,000 for the people keeping you captive. And the plot twist? You eagerly signed up for this. The nightmare that we just described is the exact situation that Tomoaki Hamatsu, also known as Nasubi, found himself in. In 1998, a Fukushima-born comedian, Nasubi, was hoping for fame when he signed up for Japanese reality TV show Susumu Denpa Shonen, roughly translated as, "Do not proceed, crazy youth." And like a cursed monkey paw curling a finger, the show granted Nasubi's wish for fame. The show had a reputation for putting contestants in stressful situations, like forcing them to hitchhike from South Africa to Norway, having another pair of contestants to hitchhike from Hong Kong to London, stranding contestants on an island and asking them to build a raft to escape, or having a contestant carry out Princess Diana's dream for world peace by clearing literal landmines between Thailand and Cambodia. The task that Nasubi faced, however, wouldn't take him so far from home. After winning a draw for the role, he was ushered into a small apartment that looked no larger than 8 feet by 6 feet, plus a small kitchenette and a toilet. There, he was told the details of his challenge. He would be kept indoors with no contact to the outside world and no possessions of his own, until he could win 1 million yen worth of prizes from mail-in sweepstakes. He would be provided with water and heating, plus a table, magazines, postcards, a radio, and a phone to enter sweepstakes with. But that was it. Anything else he would have to win, and that included food. The goal was to see whether someone could live entirely off sweepstakes. At the time, sweepstakes were all the rage, and Japan was going through a recession. As a result, some wondered if they could live solely off prizes won through mail-in sweepstakes meant to save money. The Sweepstakes Life segment was an instant success. And this is where Nasubi's unfortunate nickname comes from. The word Nasubi is Japanese for eggplant, and was partly inspired by how his head kind of looked like an eggplant shape. But that no possessions of his own part also included clothes, and so editors put an animated eggplant over his… well, you know. It all sounds a little like the movie Truman Show, or one of those psychological experiments carried out in the past which are now viewed as horrific and inhumane, with a hidden camera present to secretly record the subjects slowly losing their grasp on reality. Of course, in this case, Nasubi knew he was being filmed. What he didn't realize was that he was already being watched. At first, a segment was cut together and shown every week. Later, the show became so popular that it was being live-streamed to a massive audience, 16 million people all over Japan. More viewers than even the record-breaking series finale of Game of Thrones pulled in on HBO in the US. Trapped in an apartment with no connection with the outside world, Nasubi got to work. He was left with a rack of magazines containing mail-in sweepstakes, postcards, and a burning desire to get himself clothed. Day in, day out, he filled out postcards with sweepstakes entries and mailed them out. The first one he entered, it was for an apron. He didn't win it. Aside from the lack of clothes, Nasubi was also tormented by a lack of food. At first, he was given a ration of a tiny piece of bread per day, barely enough to survive on. Plus, just to rub salt in the wound, a ramen delivery person rang his apartment by accident. Finally, after starving for days, he won a few boxes of fiber jelly beverages, his first real meal since arriving in the apartment. A week later, he won a bag of rice. It was a welcome addition to his food, until he realized he had no way to cook it. Up until then, Nasubi hadn't managed to win anything that would help in his current predicament, like pots or rice makers. So Nasubi tried to eat the rice raw. But when that proved disagreeable, he discovered that he could cook in the empty jelly drink containers if he held them close to the stovetop while it was turned on. Once he ran out of rice, Nasubi started to eat dog food and kibble that he won instead. Though sometimes he would win other food prizes like steak, strawberries, or beans. After each and every win, he'd do a victory dance in front of the camera, parading around each new item to the audience watching him every moment of the day. As time went on in the apartment, Nasubi continued to rake in the wins, like a brand new bicycle that he excitedly pedaled around before realizing it was useless to him, a TV, though it didn't have an antenna to let him watch anything, and later a PlayStation train simulator game, but no PlayStation to actually play it with. He also found one connection in the world, a stuffed seal that he named Venus, and a doll of anime character Toru Rikishi, which he began talking to. Once he had won a VCR and 2 VHS tapes, Nasubi settled in to watch his first film in 9 months. He could finally watch the TV that was sitting there like a brick for 5 whole months. He started off dancing to the soundtrack of the first film, a bicycle race, before settling in to watch the second, a video about how to cure armpit odor. But these films didn't seem to hold Nasubi's interest, unlike one of the other prizes he won. Because once he'd won the PlayStation, Nasubi played it for 3 days straight without sleeping. For days he sat at the TV, engrossed in controlling trains using a special controller made specifically for the game, one that had all the controls of a real train. Not just getting to play something, but also getting to watch as the outside world rolled by his train windows. And then he did something unthinkable. After spending months alone in an apartment without clothes or certainty of food, he banned himself from playing this one form of entertainment in order to continue progressing towards his goal of 1 million yen worth of prizes. Of course, not all of Nasubi's winnings were so entertaining. At one point, he won a pair of panties that were too small for him to wear, leaving him still devoid of clothes. As the show's popularity grew, Nasubi would occasionally be awoken in the middle of the night by the producers and move from one apartment to another when fans would start to sleuth out his location. And just to add insult to injury, he wasn't even given clothes to travel between apartments, merely being covered in a blanket. Plus, on his first move, the staff forgot to bring his bag of rice up with them and hid it under his table instead of putting it with the rest of his prizes on the second move. But finally, he did it. With a final bag of rice, Nasubi had won 1 million yen worth of rewards. At first, he didn't realize that he had succeeded and set about entering more sweepstakes, so the producers informed him in a way that is just too fitting for the rest of the show. Nasubi awoke with a bang that night. Literally, the producer snuck in and set off a party popper straight in his face, leaving the poor man looking confused and rightfully terrified. As a celebration, he was given a suit and taken to South Korea, where he spent a day enjoying himself, only to be immediately stuck in an apartment there, stripped of his clothes, and left with a Japanese to Korean dictionary and a stack of magazines. This time, his goal was to win enough rewards to pay for a plane ticket home. The show depicted him saying that he wanted to do it, but Nasubi later revealed on This American Life that he and the show's producers had argued back and forth until Nasubi gave in, exhausted and stuck in a country that he'd made no preparations to be in. And even then, the goal he was presented with wasn't exactly truthful. Nasubi had spent 335 days in the challenge in Japan, and now he had to undergo the whole ordeal again, stranded in a different country. But over those 335 days, he had become a sweepstakes entering machine, and not even an unfamiliar language or alphabet could stop him. Starting his new challenge with rations of kimchi and the sweepstakes skills he'd perfected, Nasubi reached the new goal in a mere few weeks, winning prizes like more kimchi, a shipment of bananas, a TV, this time with an antenna so he could have shows on while he worked, and a grill wire. That wasn't good enough for the producers though, so they pushed the goalposts back again and again, turning an economy plane ticket into a business ticket, then first class. It took him another 4 months, but Nasubi did it and flew back to Japan. And then he was brought to yet another apartment. Nasubi, used to the song and dance by now, started to strip down, only for the walls to fall away and reveal a live studio audience of thousands. Nasubi had done it, and little did he know his entire grueling task had been broadcast to millions of people, every single minute of it, with humorous sound effects and laugh tracks over some of his darkest moments. Nasubi later described the toll the show took on his mental and physical health, saying, "Everything was harsh, and every day was like hell back then. I'd rather die than feel like this." Nasubi's time on the show ended with one last episode where, sitting naked on stage with only a cushion to cover himself, he was interviewed by a pair of hosts and, for the first time, shown clips from his ordeal and how his experience had been monetized. Then, he was interviewed by the press before being moved, still naked for some reason, to a hotel room and interviewed one last time. After the show, Nasubi faced issues like feeling uncomfortable wearing clothes and his speech slowing down. He also reported trouble holding down conversations given he'd only spoken to a delivery person, a doll, and a stuffed animal for over a year. Nasubi later admitted that he felt guilt. His father had never approved of him becoming a comedian, but eventually agreed with his son's career choice with the promise that he would never strip in public as part of it. And he had broken that promise in the most public way possible. His fame also never ballooned into worldwide stardom. However, he did at least earn some recognition from the ordeal. 11 months into the program, he had won a ramen meal. The footage of him enjoying this rare delicacy was then taken and turned into an ad for the ramen brand. His diary from the event was turned into a book series, one which was a bestseller, and he was cast in some movies and TV roles, like a role he had in Kamen Rider, a Japanese show similar to Power Rangers, in which he played a blogger who rode around on the bicycle that he had won from a sweepstakes. There is no escape. Long-term, Nasubi became a local personality in Fukushima and provided motivation to those forced to stay indoors during recent pandemic lockdowns. He also climbed Mount Everest for fundraising following the Fukushima nuclear reactor disaster. He later attributed his mental endurance during the climb to the time he had spent naked and alone, getting through the days sending entries to sweepstakes after sweepstakes. These days, Nasubi has his own stage performance company, Eggplant Way. And he's active on Twitter, seemingly posting about events he attends and shows he's on, including fundraising for earthquake relief and promoting local tourism, all with his signature smile on his face. Even in a time when reality TV has taken off and subathons leave live streamers broadcasting not only their every waking moment but their time asleep as well, Nasubi's experience still comes across as especially cruel. There's certainly something disturbing about watching through Nasubi's ordeal as he slowly loses weight and grows more unkempt, and seems to lose his grip with reality. Perhaps Nasubi's ordeal was a terrifying early example of reality TV gone mad. A live show of someone kept in solitary confinement, at the mercy of the world with every moment being scrutinized by more people than they can imagine. Maybe sweepstakes life is a warning sign of what to avoid in the content cycle that still controls the lives of creators to this day, and that demands constant engagement from audiences. Based on our last video, we put a poll on Twitter asking, if your left hand developed a mind of its own and tried to kill you, would you chop it off? The majority of you said, off with the hand. One user pointed out a third handy option, which was to just wear something that binds it like a cast. Not a bad idea to handle the situation, honestly. If you'd like to know the story of a woman who had a first-hand experience with this, check out our video that's on your screen now.